Great day, everyone. Great day. It's the talking head of Chris once again. Sorry, I'm trying not to move. I know the background noise is pretty loud. I had no idea this microphone was that sensitive. But yeah, super happy to be here. Yesterday I was MIA. I was super busy with all kinds of time donation stuff. I've volunteered for a whole bunch of different stuff and probably way too much. Again, I'm not used to volunteering, so I went overboard. I'm going to have to pare it back over the next few months just so that I have time to do all the stuff I really need to do, right? And that's staying healthy and sober and straight and clean and working out and doing all the stuff that I need to do for me. So I'm just going to pare it back just a little bit, just to make sure I can get, because these videos are important to me. Like I said previously, I've put this off for a decade or so, like not doing this video because of perfectionism, right? Trying to be perfect. And it doesn't work, right? Nothing's ever perfect. And the best way to get better at something is to just start doing it and doing it. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's cool. Last night it snowed out here in Manitoba on the May long weekend, which I'm used to rain, but I don't think I've seen snow in a long time on a May long weekend. So it was quite something. The mattress in the house is way too soft for me, and so I slept on it all winter, and it really put my back repairs backwards, so I'm actually trying to sleep out in the motorhome because the mattress is a lot more solid, and it seems that that's what I need. I need a firm mattress. I can't have a soft mattress. So just something I'm learning, right? So today I wanted to talk a bit about myofascial tissue. I mentioned it in the last video, and I think it's pretty important for people to understand that, and how these traumas get trapped in us, right? And I'll just tell you what I've learned, and I've learned a bunch of this stuff mostly from YouTube, but a few books. Right, I've read a couple of books, not too many because I'm not much of a reader, but I'm getting more into it. There's quite a bit of information in books that you don't get online. So, and I like the actual paper in my hands and reading it, especially before bed, because it really calms my nervous system down and allows me to go to sleep better. So I've been reading a little bit of books, a few books here and there at night before bed, about 10 minutes or 15 minutes before bed, read something in a book, and it's not like a screen, right? It actually stabilizes your system, right? It's not blue light, right? And it really relaxes me. I don't know about anyone else, but it helps me. So it's something I tried and I really like it. So that's what I've been doing. Most of the information I've learned over the last 16 years since I've been, got sober, started to get healthy with my back problems and all the issues I've had physically. And as I find out now, it's a lot emotional. I learned, I'd say 90% of it online, right? And just listening to some really smart people that have helped me out greatly, right? I'll name a few off just so that if you guys are interested, you can check out some of their stuff, right? Dr. John Bergman, he's a great chiropractor. I learned tons of stuff from him in the beginning, and I still listen to a lot of his stuff. He's it's very simple what he says, and what he says is very, very true, right? The closer I can live to what he tells me, the better I feel. So he's onto something, and he just seems like a really genuine, caring guy. So, Dr. John Bergman, chiropractor. Mr. Paul Chek from the Chek Institute. He's been teaching health and wellness and exercises for a very long time, probably from the 80s, I'd say, but more like in the early 90s for sure. He has an institute somewhere in California, San Diego, I think, and I believe John Bergman is also from San Diego, California. But Paul Chek, I have his book right here. I'll promote it for him, even though he doesn't know it. How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Once again, written very simple. All the stuff in there is very basic, right? But I think a lot of it is stuff we forgot. We forget. We don't put it into practice, right? So by reading his book and listening to a lot of his podcasts, like he gives a lot of information for free, right? And it's amazing how much he gives away for free. Same with John Bergman. He gives tons of information away for free. Like, you don't need to buy any of their stuff, really. You can do it all if you just listen to their videos. So, you know, I hope that you do buy some stuff. I have bought some of Paul Chek's other courses other than the book. Just learning exercise physiology and stuff from him is great. Great guy. I've learned tons from him. I still listen to him all the time. Another one was Mr. Gabor Mate, and he is a psychologist, I believe. Don't get me that. Maybe not. He's from Canada, but I think he's in the US now. I'm not exactly 100% sure. He's got a book. What the heck is that name? I had it on the tip of my tongue. The Body Keeps the Score. And I believe that's his book. And I've learned lots from him about trauma and how trauma gets stuck inside of our bodies, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about, right? All these three gentlemen in the beginning here, they have all said the same things, just in a little different way, about how trauma and emotions get trapped in our bodies, right? And then the fourth one, which I started watching just over a year ago, is a Mr. Tim Fletcher. They're all men, unfortunately. I do listen to a lot of women podcasts. They're not in my head right now. These are the guys that I have learned a lot from, and because I'm a male, I resonate with them more. But Mr. Tim Fletcher he's a counselor. He does a lot of work with addictions in Winnipeg, and I believe in Ontario somewhere, but mostly in Winnipeg. He's got some videos on YouTube. They're really good. He talks about complex trauma and how we're programmed and we don't even see it. It's subconscious, right? So it gets stuck in us from our youth, and then it plays out over and over and over and over again in our lives, and we don't even see it, right? Once I started listening to him and Gabor Mate, and then looking at my life, you know, not from in here, but trying to look from above, right? Like trying to look at it. Okay, well, I did this. Why did I do that? You know, I went down this path. Why did I go down that path? You know, I believe this. Why do I believe that? Why is that my belief? Like, again, sitting there and questioning things about our lives, right? Like, how many people do that? It's not very many, I don't think. You know, when I was in my addiction problem, and even for a couple of years after, I was so stressed about money and life, just getting the basics of life, right? That I never thought of any of these issues, right? I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't think about why I do certain things, you know? Even though the treatment center I went to asked some of those questions, right? And when we do our step 4 and 5 in AA, sometimes those questions come up, But again, I was so stressed out about money, about paying the bills, about making sure that I had enough to keep my life going, that I didn't ask those questions, right? I didn't ask like why I think a certain way. Right? I didn't even think about thinking about asking about it. I didn't even know that was part of life, right? And so as I listened to these four gentlemen over the past 16 years, because the first year I didn't really do much because I was in panic mode, right? I was in survival mode. The first year of sobriety, I mean. So after that, I started to get out of that panic mode a bit, but I was just trapped in there until COVID, right? And then I got out of it, like I said, going to the sauna and really thinking about these questions, right? And starting this process of asking why I think a certain way, why I do certain things, why my outcomes in my life are always the same, even though I don't want them to be, right? I think a lot of you are gonna say, yeah, like, why, even though I don't want that, and I say I don't want that, and I really, but it happens again and again and again and again. I can't get out of that rut, right? And that's because it's programmed into us subconsciously, right? Like it's embedded in us, and it takes a lot to get that out. This is what I'm finding, right? It takes a lot to get that out. So when I was in the sauna and I noticed that my sit bones weren't sitting, like one was down and one was up, right? And so I was so twisted. I never noticed that before, right? But I noticed it in there because I was starting to pay attention to this stuff, right? I'm starting to key in, and I'm listening to these guys tell me that this is part of our problem, right? Our physical. When you have emotional problems and you're not dealing with them, your psychology, your brain, your body, your soul wants you to deal with these problems. So it will put you in pain in some areas to try to get your awareness, right? And that pain won't go away no matter what you do, massage or exercise or water or sleep or any of the things I talked about before, the basics, right? It won't go away until you deal with the emotional problem that's stuck there, right? And so that's a big thing, right? Those emotions get stuck in us. And I believe, and from what I'm hearing and listening to and reading a little bit about, is that myofascial tissue gets stuck, right? And so the myofascial tissue is like a connection from your fingertip all the way down to your toes. Like your whole body is connected by this myofascial tissue. And what it is when you take when you get a steak, right? And or a chicken breast, but a steak, really, you see it there the most, or maybe a pork chop, but steak. We'll stick with steak. So the white tissue, that really, it's almost translucent. It's very thin, but it goes around the muscle. And it's not very thick. It's not hard. It's not like the cartilage. It's not the fat. It's this very thin layer, like a very thin skin. That's your myofascial tissue. And it connects all the muscles and and it holds the organs in, and I'm not a master at this stuff, so I'm just giving you guys the basics, right? As far as I figured it out so far. So it connects everything. And what happens is when it gets glued together from trauma, so it could be physical trauma or mental trauma or like a lack of hydration, even a lack of sleep, right, will bring upon this. It'll stick together. Like it won't move around properly, right? And then all the little muscles, right, kind of get glued together and they move as one, so they're not moving separately. And I think, like my lung, right, my right lung was a part of that was the myofascial tissue. I think was stuck together. That's what the Rolfing dude in on Vancouver Island told me, right? And so by separating that tissue, that those fibers out, it allows the lung to expand properly, right? And so I don't know where that trauma came from, the lung trauma. It's just there, right? So I have to deal with it the way how I find it, and try to figure out what's caused it, so that I don't allow it to happen again, right? If it is an emotion, I want it out, so that so that it doesn't keep re-injuring it, right? I'm so as that separates, the muscles start to move together. So when you got lower back pain, right, all the glute medius, the glute minimus, which is underneath in there, the lats, the infraspinatus, like all those muscles in the back. I'm trying to get technical because I learned all this stuff through personal training. So they get glued together and they move as one instead of moving separate, right? And that myofascial tissue pulls, and it really pulls and holds it, right? So it's stiff. So you got to get that broken up to get that part of your life healthy, to get those muscles moving right, to get the lung moving right, and one of the big culprits is emotions, right? So emotions will go to muscles. They'll go to certain areas, like I said, to get your attention. It's there to get your attention, right? And to go along with that is don't just think it's myofascial tissue or an emotion that's stuck in that muscle, right? If you're doing everything right and you're still not healing, then it's probably emotional, right? Or, this is something else I found out through these guys, your organs or glands in your body don't have pain receptors. So what they do is they're connected through the vertebrae in your spine, right? The signals come down out of your brain, they go through your spine, and that vertebrae then sends a signal out through the vertebrae and to the certain organs, and that vertebrae is also attached to certain muscles. So what the organs do if they're in trouble, right? Like with me, with my drinking, my liver and my pancreas were in bad condition, right? Like I was saying in a previous video, when I went to the normal doctor, the allopathic doctor, as they're more typically called, they said I was fine, right? But when I went to the naturopathic doctor, he showed me where they weren't fine, right? Now, they weren't bad enough where I would get a prescription or surgery, which is what the allopathic doctor does. But the naturopath says they're close, like they're right on the edge. So those organs were in big trouble. So what they were doing is they were hijacking the pain receptors of my back muscles to tell me that there's a problem, right? So that's something else you got to think about. And if it's not emotional, then it's going to be your organs. So if you have pain somewhere, right, like my lower back pain, that wouldn't go away, even though I'm doing all the right things, it's still stuck there, right? Then I have to go and get a blood test, and then I should go and find a naturopathic doctor that will go over my blood test with me to see how my organs are doing, right? Just from my observation, or from my life up to this point, the allopathic doctor, the doctors at the hospital, the doctors that we go see all the time, the prescription drugs, those guys, they're not going to go over that with you in depth, your blood tests. They're just not. They're not trained to do that. They're trained to see if it's over a certain line, they give you a prescription or a surgery. That's what they're trained to do, right? A good naturopathic doctor will go over it with you, find out what's on the edge, what's struggling inside your organs and glands and stuff, and then they'll help you fix those problems, right? So that's the first thing you do. Now, if you don't have those issues, then you really got to look at the emotional side, right? You got to look at those emotional traumas. Gabor Mate, I was listening to a video of his, and he was reading obituaries, right? And the obituary that, and he read a bunch of them, but I'll just give you the one breakdown of one. This lady so-and-so was the nicest woman in the world. She would give you the shirt off her back. She ran this committee and did this and volunteered here and volunteered there and did this and did that and did all these things and gave to everyone selflessly, right? And people just love that, right, about people. And she died of cancer on this and this date, right? And then he reads another one and another one and another one. And the obituaries are always similar. They're always someone that gives of themselves totally, right? All their time and all their energy and everything goes to others. But nothing comes to you to look after you, right? And they almost always get cancer, right? And so one of his inferments was that because you're not looking after yourself, the cancer's telling you, hey, you got to look after yourself. You're important. I'm important, right? Like I said in previous videos, sobriety's here. Staying off the drugs, the addictions, that's my first priority. Second one is my health, me. After that is everyone else, right? Because if I'm not healthy, I'm not happy, I'm not addiction-free, I can't help anyone. I'm giving energy that I don't have. And I'm going to hurt me, right? Which is why I'm going to scale back some of my volunteering. I'm going to have to just cut her back just a little bit here and there, just to make sure that I'm not overdoing it, right? So that I can look after me. And in our society, again, I've said this before, we are not taught to do that. We are taught to do everything for everyone else. And it's really sick that that's what we're taught. By our friends, family, the government, the school system, the work, especially work. Work wants everything from you, right? And we're not taught to look after ourselves. So I'm really, on this channel, I'm really going to push that over and over and over and over and over again. We have to be our first priority. I know a lot of you, or most of you, or whatever, have kids, right? You have parents that might need help. You have spouses that might need help, right? But you need to look after you first. Doesn't mean you don't look after them. Doesn't mean you don't care about them or do what they need. But if you're always running ragged for your kids and you never look after yourself, you are going to pay that price, right? And then your kids or your grandkids aren't going to have you around. Or you're going to be so sick and miserable that they're not going to be wanting to be around you. Right? That's what I'm talking about. You need to be healthy so that you're there for your kids for their whole life, for as long as you're on this planet, instead of dying at 50, which a lot of men do in their 50s, right? I'm just talking men. Women, it's a little different. We have different lifespans and different ways of going through things. But our 50s are pretty tough because we've neglected ourselves all those years, right? We put our families first. We put our work first. We put paying off the house, the money, the financial thing, all that stuff first. And we're way down on the list, right? And then we get sick, right? And what a lot of people, like in that Gabor Mate, when he's talking about people's obituaries, like right in their obituary, oh, even while they had cancer, they still were on this committee and doing this and doing that and doing, So instead of helping themselves, they were still giving to others. That's not right. You have to look after yourself. You are not selfish for making sure that you are happy and healthy and moving in a good direction. You're not selfish. All right, I'll repeat that. You're not selfish. I don't care what anyone says to you. My girlfriend says that to me once in a while. Right? That she doesn't like it that my sobriety, staying clean is up here. My health, my happiness is right here. And then she's down here. In these ones. She's way above my work, right? My work is way down there. Like I said before in a previous video. But she is not at the top, right? My sobriety is, then my health and happiness, my health, me making sure that I'm not going to get cancer, or if I do have cancer, I'm trying to cure it. I'm trying to get rid of it. You can do a lot with food and water and sleep and all the stuff I've talked about, right? And I'll keep talking about them. Changing your diet. I met a lady in Whistler, and she's a doctor, but she's changed her way of thinking, right? She has cured cancer, 70 to 80% of the people that go see her, and change their diet to all vegetable, and take out the canola oil, and take out all the garbage, and just stick with that, completely reverse their cancer. Right? I've met some of them. So you can do a lot. You do not have to do the surgery unless it's dire, right? There's other things you can do. I would never tell you not to do the surgery if it's life or death. I'm saying if you catch that cancer early enough and you change your lifestyle and you change your eating, you change your water and all, right? You start taking good vitamins and all that kind of stuff. There's a really good chance, you got a really good chance that cancer is going to go away, right? Because our bodies fight it. They fight it. They fight cancer every day, right? It's when our bodies get depleted that it takes over. So I'm kind of off the myofascial point, but my point is that all these things get stuck in us, right? The emotions, the glands, the organs, they need to tell us that they're sick and hurting, man. Our body is super, super intelligent. And we don't give it enough credit. We don't give it enough credit. We're told that, we just cut that out. We just replace that like we're a machine. Right? Like we're my truck. The water pump goes, you just pull the water pump out and you put a new one in. Oh, your heart gets bad. Oh, we just pull it out, put a new one in. Right? We're not taught to maintain this thing. Right? I was never taught that. Never by friends, family, school, the government, work. The most I ever got when I was a kid was that we had participation. So we had these little commercials that would tell us to get outside and run or to play, or right. That was the closest that I got to any information that I should be looking after this machine here, the most advanced machine on the planet. Right? The most advanced machine on the planet that we don't have an owner's manual for, right? No one just gives us an owner's manual. Here, this is how to look after this machine. The human body. Right? The human body. More technologically advanced than any computer, any AI, any robot on the planet, and probably ever will be. Right? We're so enthralled with all these robots and AI and all this stuff. Right here, this thing here. This is super important. This is your vessel that your soul travels in for the duration of your life. And we're told to neglect it. Right? The myofascial tissue thing, you can go to some good massage therapists and they will help you loosen that up. Right? There's also, it's called Rolfing. Don't ask me how to spell it because I'd probably spell it wrong. But it's Rolfing if you just type that in. Or structural integration. Those are two names for the same thing. They're amazing. Those people are amazing. Right? The emotional stuff that gets stuck in us, right? This complex trauma. Complex trauma. Trauma is the impact, right? Or you see a sibling die right in front of you, or you're witness to a murder or something. That's major trauma, right? Complex trauma is all the little traumas. When you're a kid, you're not listened to by your parents. They blow you off. That's a trauma. It's a little trauma. But not being listened to, means you don't have a voice. Right? You shut down inside. You don't tell people what you think or what you feel. Right? So that affects you deeply for the rest of your life until you deal with that trauma, that little trauma. Right? And we all have lots and lots and lots of them. Right? As I look into my life, into this vessel that I'm trying to extend the life of as long as I can, right? Am I going to live forever? No, none of us are. But you know what? I can have the best, absolute best life as long as I can if I look after this vessel. And part of that is dealing with the big traumas and then all the little traumas, right? So there's some good resources online. I gave you 4 earlier in this video, right? There's a lot more. There's really good counselors out there, right? Sometimes it's good to have a counselor you just talk to. You need to talk. But I really think, just like, we'll go back to AA here, how they have a plan of action for you, and they have different things they want you to work through. The steps, as they call them. But those are different aspects of your life that you have to deal with each little bit, which helps you get over some of these traumas, right? Their trauma that they're trying to help you get over is alcoholism or addiction to drugs, right? Or anything, really. When I was in treatment, people had eating disorders, right? That's just as bad. That's probably harder if you're dealing with an eating disorder, because you can't quit eating, right? I can quit drinking and never drink again. Or I can quit snorting cocaine and just say, no more, never again. You can't say, I have an eating problem and I'm just going to quit eating forever. It doesn't work, right? You're not going to last long doing that, right? So you have to come at that one a little different. And I don't have any experience with that, right? I do know that you need help. I do know you need support. And I do know it's going to be pretty tough, right? And you have to deal with it, right? It's all these things, and they all come from trauma of some kind, right? And neglect. We neglect ourselves. And we neglect ourselves probably because of the complex traumas. All those little things, not being heard, not being seen, you know? Living in a family of addiction, you know? If you're living in a family full of addictions, then you're going to have some traumas, right? Your life probably wasn't very great as you grew up, right? And all that stuff's going to stick you together. It's going to stick things together like the myofascial tissue, and so that you can't move properly, right? You can't move emotionally properly. You know, the body doesn't move properly. It gets all stiff and sore and stuck, right? So these are the things that we have to deal with, right? And I'm going to leave it at that today because I think that's good enough. Give you lots to think about. Maybe you check out some of the guys I talked about. The next videos I'll have some ladies that I've learned stuff from, because I have learned stuff from ladies. I just really have to think back and get their names down properly so that when I give them to you and you look for them, you're looking for the right person, right? I'm not just making it up to sound good. I don't want to do that. I want to give you guys real things that you can do and real information that you can find so that it can help you grow out of your addictions, grow out of your traumas, get your body as healthy as possible so that as you age, your life is still great, you know, instead of being miserable and cranky and in a wheelchair. Like, no one wants that. So let's work together in this community to help each other to never have that happen. Right? And with that, have a great day, because I know I will. I've already been having a great one. Started early this morning, and I'll continue to have a great day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Like, subscribe, comment for sure, ask questions. I have no more pre-recorded videos, so I'm on the fly. Right? I've used up my 5 ones, and so now it's just me every day, live. So get a hold of me, talk to me, tell me what you're thinking. Have a great day.